grade 9 learners. Welcome to Physical Education class. This is Sir Rolly, your physical education teacher, who will present to you the lesson about basic first aid. Are you ready? Let's go! Through this lesson, you will be given a chance to perform appropriate first aid for injuries and emergency situations in physical activity in sports settings such as cramps, sprain, and exhaustion. To achieve this goal, you need to perform the following learning objectives. Determine the different first aid for injuries encountered by commissioning officials and athletes. Describe the specific injuries encountered by commissioning officials and athletes. And explain the importance of first aid during emergency situations in sports settings. Having knowledge of these learning competencies, I believe we'll be able to achieve our goal, that is to perform appropriate first aid for injuries and emergency situations in physical activity in sports settings. Before we start, let's have first a short quiz. Let me know if you have a background knowledge about basic first aid. This is a 5 items multiple choice test. All you have to do is answer the questions flashed on the screen. Write only the letter of the answer you have chosen on your activity. You have only 5 seconds to answer each question. So, if you're ready, here we go! Number 1. What do you call the immediate care given to an injured person before the arrival of a physician? A. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation. B. Chest compression. C. First aid. D. Intensive care. Time starts now. Time's up. The correct answer is letter C. First aid. Next, number 2. What does the acronym RISE stand for? A. Rest, ice, compress, evaluate. B. Rest, tension, care, elevate. C. Rest, ice, compression, elevation. D. Relax, inhale, communicate, elevate. Time is up. What's the answer? If you answered letter C, you got the correct answer. Next, number 3. Anterior cruciate ligament or ACL is an example of what specific injury? A. Dislocation. B. Fracture. C. Heat exhaustion. D. Knee injury. Time is up. What's the answer? If you answered letter D, you got it again. Next, number 4. What is the basic and immediate first aid for fracture? A. Apply rice method. B. Apply mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. C. Check the pulse of the victim and call for an ambulance. D. Immediately steam the injured part. Time is up. The correct is letter A. Last but not the least, number 5. What do you call the stretch or tear of the ligament? A. Dislocation. B. Fracture. C. Sprain. D. Strain. Time is up. What's your answer? The correct answer is letter C. Did you get all the correct answers? Great job! If not, it only means you really need this lesson. I'm sure you'll have a great time in participating to our lesson today. To begin with, let's find out first the meaning of first aid. What is first aid? If you don't have any idea about it, then it's the perfect time for me to disclose to you its meaning. First aid is defined as first and immediate assistance given to any person suffering from serious illness or injury, with care provided to preserve life. The knowledge you gain in basic first aid will later on turn into a skill that will benefit not only you, but your family too and other people around close to you, since you have now the ability to respond to emergency situation by being a first aider. Next thing to explore is to determine what, where, and how the basic first aid is being applied. This statement is indeed hypothetical because all the learning the first aider acquired will become useless. So, let's take it one by one. First to tackle is the question, what kind of situation do we need to apply first aid? If you answered both an emergency and non-emergency situation, your answer is right. Second, where do we need to apply first aid services? If you're thinking of any place as long as there's a sense of urgency to help, very good. Your thinking is right. Lastly, when do we apply first aid? If you answered whenever there's an untoward incident that causes either minor or serious injury to the victims, and I was there, I will help as a first aider, then just serve your purpose.
Common unintentional injuries. Number 1. Sprain. It is caused by torn fibers in alignment. Bruising and swelling are some signs and symptoms. Appropriate first aid. Remove any clothing or jewelry around the joint. Apply cold compress once. Elevate the affected joint. The victim's physician may recommend an over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medication such as aspirin, ibuprofen, appropriate for the victim's general health. Number 2. Heat exhaustion. It is a response to heat characterized by fatigue, weakness, and collapse due to inadequate intake of water to compensate for loss of fluids during sweating. Appropriate first aid. Have the victim lie down with his or her feet elevated. Keep the victim cool. Give him or her electrolyte beverages to sip or make a salted drink. Monitor the victim's signs of shock. If the victim starts having seizures, protect him or her from injury and give first aid for convulsions. If the victim loses consciousness, give first aid for unconsciousness. Number 3. Strain. It is a twist, pull, or tear of a muscle or tendon, a cord of tissue connecting muscle to bone. Appropriate first aid. Apply rice method. Do not apply heat during the first 2 days as this will only increase swelling. Use paracetamol for the first day of the injury to reduce pain without increasing bleeding, or take aspirin. Apply arnica oil to reduce swelling. After 48 hours, massage the affected area gently, but only enough not to cause pain. Number 4. Knee injury. Severe knee injuries include bone bruises or damage to the cartilage or ligaments. Major injuries are common to the anterior cruciate ligament or ACL, meniscus injuries, posterior cruciate ligament or PCL, medial collateral ligament or MCL, and lateral collateral ligament or LCL. Appropriate first aid. Rest the joint at first. Reduce pain, swelling, and internal bleeding with ice packs applied 15 minutes every couple of hours. Bandage the knee firmly. Elevate the injured leg. Number 5. Fracture. It is a break in the bone that can occur from either a quick, one-time injury to the bone or acute fracture, or from repeated stress to the bone over time or stress fracture. Appropriate first aid. Apply rice method. Keep the limb in the position you found it, and place soft padding around the broken bones. Splint the injury with something rigid to prevent the bones from shifting. Don't move the broken bones. If there's an open fracture, cover with clean gauze pad. Number 6. Dislocation. It occurs when the two bones that come together to form a joint become separated joints. Appropriate first aid. Do not move the dislocated joints or bones because it might cause greater damage. Splint the affected joint in its fixed position. Put ice on the injured joint to reduce swelling.
Now, let's see if you can still remember the types of injuries we discussed a while ago. The next activity is entitled Look for Me. From this word puzzle, you will find 6 words related to unintentional injuries. All you have to do is look for these 6 words, and once you found it, write it in your activity notebook. You will only be given 1 minute to do it. When you're done, label this activity as let's practice. Look for me. Are you ready? Your time starts now. Time's up. Let's check your work. What are the 6 words related to injuries found in the word puzzle? The answers are knee injury, fracture, strain, heat explosion, dislocation, and first aid. I am confident that these are exactly the words you have written in your activity notebook. Now, there's more. Let's see if you gain an understanding on this part of the lesson. This activity is entitled, I Know How to Rescue You. You will arrange basic first aid procedure in each of the given injuries, which proper sequence. Write only the number of your answer on your activity. Example, the procedure is numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but the correct sequence should be 1, 3, 5, 4, and 2. You need to rewrite the number sequence.
Injury. Number 1. Fracture. Basic first aid application. 1. Apply RICE method. 2. Splint the injury with something rigid to prevent the bones from shifting. 3. If there is open fracture, cover with a clean loose pad. 4. Keep the limb in the position you found it and place soft padding around the broken bones. 5. Don't move the broken bones. Number 2. Sprain. Basic first aid application. 1. The victim's physician may recommend an over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medication such as aspirin, ibuprofen, appropriate for the victim's general health. 2. Remove any clothing or jewelry around the joint. 3. Apply cold compress at once. 4. Elevate the affected joint. Number 3. Dislocation. Basic first aid application. 1. Splint the affected joint in its fixed position. 2. Do not move the dislocated joints or bones because it might cause greater damage. 3. Put ice on the injured joint to reduce swelling.
Time's up. Let's check your work.
For fracture injury, the correct sequence is 1, 4, 2, 5, 3.
Next, for sprain injury, the correct sequence is 2, 3, 4, and 1. Next, the correct sequence for dislocation is 2, 1, and 3. You perfectly arrange all the procedures. Great job! It simply means you're hitting our goal. Alright, we're almost done with our lesson, but before we validate everything you learned, let's have a consolidation first. As a short recap, we discussed today the lesson about basic first aid, where we are able to achieve the following. Describe the different types of injuries commonly encountered by individuals like athletes, officiating officials, and others after engaging in either physical activity and sports competition. Determine the first aid application or the proper procedure in giving first aid. And explain the importance of basic first aid in emergency situation. So, to wrap it up, let's check your learning. For the last time, prepare your activity notebook with your ball pen and answer the 5 items identification test.
Read and analyze the situations in each item. Determine the common injury that being described. Choose your answer in the box. Write the letter of your answer on your activity notebook. Here are the words inside the box. A. Sprain. B. Heat exhaustion. C. Fracture. D. Dislocation. E. Knee injury. Anna accidentally rolled her ankle while running on an uneven surface. It resulted to torn fibers in ligament. Bernadette falls to the stairs at home. She bends her knee with force. While riding a bike, Sheldon got outbalanced. He leaned his weight to his right arm. Doing this, the arm bone or the humerus slips out of the joint. While playing horse riding, Leonard falls. His collarbone or clavicle is broken. Penny is not drinking water regularly. Because of this, she becomes weak.
Time's up. Let's check your answers.
1. A. Sprain. 2. E. Knee injury. 3. D. Dislocation. 4. C. Fracture. 5. B. Heat exhaustion.
If you get answers correctly, this only means that you have learned from the lesson. Congratulations, learners! You were able to finish the task on this episode. Great job! Once again, I am Sir Rolly, your teacher